Today, we got an update by the chairperson of the ad hoc interministerial task force on the COVID-19 outbreak. Cabinet received an update on the country's response to the COVID-19 outbreak as presented by the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs as chairperson of the ad hoc interministerial task force. Cabinet is informing the nation that as of 10th August 2021, which is yesterday, there were 117,258 cumulative positive cases, compared to the 109,546 which were reported last week. The cumulative number of deaths reached so far is 3,950, compared to 3,583 which was reported last week. Cabinet noted that the number of infections decreased slightly during the week under review, with 6,781 cases recorded, compared to the 11,652 which was reported the previous week. This reflected a 42% decrease and indicated that the infection prevention and control measures are yielding results. However, more efforts are required to contain the third wave of the pandemic. The only exception is Midlands Province, which is experiencing another surge. Concerted efforts will be made to address the situation in that province as well as in other non-COVID-19 hotspots. Cabinet further wishes to inform the nation that work to increase bed capacity at several COVID-19 treatment centers through the country is continuing. The country's companies and universities have enough raw materials to increase the production of PPEs as well as medicines for managing COVID-19. In order to ensure provision of water, 12 new boreholes were drilled and 126 others were rehabilitated. 7 hand-washing facilities were established at public places, while 95 hygiene promotion sessions were conducted. Assessments on the state of preparedness for the safe reopening of schools is ongoing across all provinces. The Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has redoubled efforts towards the targeted provision of tents, additional furniture, reliable water sources, ablution facilities, and the decongestion of teacher accommodation. Testing for COVID-19 is also being escalated in communities. Then we moved on to the progress report on the procurement and rollout of COVID-19 vaccinations. Cabinet received an update on the procurement and rollout of COVID-19 vaccines, which was presented by the Vice President and Minister of Health and Childcare, Honorable CGDN Chiwenga. Cabinet is informing the nation that as of 10th August, which is yesterday, a total of 1,912,592 persons had received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, while 1,061,238 had received the second dose. This translates to a national coverage of 22.3% and 12.3% for the first and second doses, respectively. Vaccination in border towns, other hotspots, and people's markets is progressing as scheduled. 2 million syringes were procured from Sinopharm of China, and they were received on the 7th of August 2021. The vaccination program will be ramped up in provinces with low uptake, such as Mashonaland Central and Mashonaland West provinces, including Chitungwiza, where progress actually is quite slow. Cabinet wishes to inform the public that churches can now allow sit-in congregates under the following conditions. Only congregants who have received 2 doses of the vaccine are allowed to attend. And all Ministry of Health and Childcare and WHO protocols have to be adhered to. And those found in breach will be arrested, including the leaders of church. Cabinet further wishes to inform the nation that private companies, that is hotels and other institutions, can access, upon payment of the requisite fees to the Ministry of Health and Childcare, vaccines. This is on the proviso that they seek authority from the ministry for qualified persons to conduct the vaccination of their staff and or patrons. Special care should also be taken to ensure that standard equipment is used for vaccination. Then we moved on to the principles for the amendment of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Act, Chapter 22.23. Cabinet considered and approved the principles for the amendment of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Assets Act, Chapter 22.23, as presented by the Honorable Vice President and Minister of Health and Child Care. Cabinet noted that among other objectives, the Act provides for the control and regulation of public procurement and disposal of public assets to ensure that it is transparent, fair, honest, cost-effective, and competitive. However, the Act in its current form does not sufficiently provide for capacity building of staff employed in public procurement roles. The often unsatisfactory compliance, which undermines the integrity of public procurement processes, always happens. State enterprises and parastatals operating in competitive sectors and markets have also been placed at a disadvantage when compared to their private sector competitors because of these inherent inefficiencies. Accordingly, Cabinet agreed that the Auditor General be excluded from the membership of the Special Procurement Oversight Committee, SPOC. This is because one of the Auditor General's functions in terms of Section 309 of the Constitution is to audit the accounts, financial systems, and financial management of all departments, institutions, and agencies of government, as well as provincial and metropolitan councils and all local authorities. It was also agreed that the chief executive officers should not serve as secretary to the board of the State Procurement Oversight Committee. The board should instead appoint a suitably qualified, competent, and experienced company secretary capable of maintaining a professional relationship with members of the board. The amended Act will also provide for innovation and technological advancements in pursuit of international best practice. Furthermore, the wording of the original Act makes it optional rather than mandatory for procuring entities to accord preferential treatment to domestic service providers by all procuring entities. With respect to the procurement of construction works, the Act will now make it mandatory for foreign suppliers to engage local contractors and to also promote technology and skills transfer. Then regarding the standstill period, whereby procuring entities were not allowed to do anything for 14 days to allow for challenging of the award, Cabinet agreed that the lengthy 14-day standstill period be reduced to 7 days. This amendment will facilitate the expeditious delivery of supplies, shorten the procurement cycle, and ensure speedy project implementation. On disposal of assets to employees, Cabinet noted that there is a loophole in the current Act which leaves room for close family members to manipulate the disposal of public assets. Accordingly, persons meeting that definition of close family members will now be disqualified from procuring public assets being disposed of in order to promote fairness. Cabinet also agreed that quotas be given to women, war veterans, youth, and people with disabilities and other disadvantaged groups. Cabinet directed that the actual bill be drafted from these principles. Then I move on to the proposed investment projects. Cabinet considered and approved the following 4 investment projects which were presented by the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Honorable Professor Mthuli Ncube, as Chairman of the Public-Private Partnership Committee, PPP. The first project, proposed partnership between Bulawayo City Council and Tendi 3 Private Limited. This is on the Bulawayo Vehicle Parking Management System project. Then 2, the proposed partnership between National Oil Company of Zimbabwe, that's NOIC, and Coven Private Limited to develop a second petroleum products pipeline and establish Harare as a regional hub for refined petroleum fuel supplies to the landlocked SADC states. And then the 3rd one is the proposal for investment by a Belarusian independent power producer in a 100-megawatt solar energy plant. The 4th is the proposed partnership between ZMDC and Simsia Private Limited and Honghua International for the resuscitation of Angwa shaft mine and the processing of the dump site at Chizikwe. Bulawayo Vehicle Parking Management System Project. The Bulawayo Vehicle Parking Management System Project is a 30 to 70 public-private partnership between the Bulawayo City Council and 23 Private Limited. The 2 main objectives of the project are revenue generation and employment creation. The project involves the installation and maintenance of a fully integrated parking management system which will allow users to pay parking fees using their mobile phones and other payment methods. Surveillance equipment will also be installed on all streets in order to aid traffic management in the city. The introduction of the system will result in increased revenue generation to Bulawayo City Council, which should result in improved service delivery. 23 Private Limited will invest US $2.2 million into the project, which will have a capacity of 7,200 parking bays. Some equipment worth US $700,000 has already been acquired for this project. The project will have an annual turnover of between US $1.1 million and $1.8 million. And it will create employment opportunities for 450 people. This partnership will run for a period of 6 years. Apart from revenue generation and employment creation, the other benefits of implementing the vehicle parking management system are, among others, as follows. 1, real-time vehicle detection and recording. 2, ability to guide motorists to available parking bays. 3, allowing effective and efficient workforce management. And 4, the convenience to the motoring public. And 5, decongestion of urban roads. Then the other project is between NOIC and Coven Energy Limited. The joint venture project between NOIC and Coven Energy Limited is for purposes of developing and operating a second pipeline from Beira to Harare. The objective is to establish Zimbabwe as the hub for the transportation of refined petroleum products to the SADC region, namely Zimbabwe, Botswana, and South Africa. The project will result in NOIC and Coven Energy Limited entering into a 50-50 public-private partnership. The project will create employment opportunities as well as generate foreign currency for the country. It will also help reduce vehicular congestion and the smuggling of petroleum products. The pipeline will be built over 4 years at an estimated cost of $1.3 billion. The partnership would be for a period of 30 years. Cabinet resolved that the parties sign an MOU for purposes of conducting a bankable feasibility study which they would fund. The feasibility study would subsequently inform government on the way forward. Then I move on to the Belarusian solar plant in Zimbabwe. On the 100-megawatt solar energy plant investment by Belarusian investors, the nation is informed that the project will be funded to the tune of $125.5 million. The renewable energy project will be implemented on a 25-year independent power producer basis and will involve a power purchase agreement with the Zimbabwe Electricity Transmission and Distribution Company. The power generated by the plant will be introduced onto the national grid and complement power generated by the thermal power plants. Land for the project has since been identified in Norton. The implementation of the project will be subject to the signing of the double taxation and bilateral investment protection and promotion agreements between the government of Zimbabwe and Belarus. The project is part of government's engagement and re-engagement efforts. Then the next project is between ZMDC and SlyMedia Private Limited and Honghua International. Cabinet noted that the joint venture partnership between ZMDC and SlyMedia Private Limited and Honghua International on the resuscitation of operations at Angwa Shaft Mine and the processing of the dump at Chidzikwe, SlyMedia investment in Honghua International will inject capital amounting to $200.25 million, which cover the procurement of plant and equipment for dump retreatment and shaft resuscitation. The project will create 500 jobs for locals, and Zimbabwe will benefit from technology transfer and US $200 million in foreign currency generation over 10 years. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.
Thank you.